Chapter 12. The Endgame with artificial intelligence becoming such an incredible new force in the world, the people running the planet, World Economic Forum, and other elites, were faced with a very serious dilemma. It is going to be and already is such a dangerous and powerful force that the elites at the World Economic Forum have come to the conclusion that whoever controls the AI and gets ahead of it will be in control of the planet without a doubt. So what we see now going on is basically an attempt to get ahead of this problem by not allowing that to happen. By creating a coalition of many powerful countries and rich elites, they hope to be in control of this new technology before another group can take a dominant position, and to not let another group or country who potentially pioneer this technology before them. The reason why it is so important to get ahead of this technology is because it is more powerful than anything in the history of man and can be used in ways we can't even fathom. So, as an example, if a country like North Korea or Russia were on the cutting edge of this technology, they could potentially change the entire power dynamic of the world. So, what we see happening now with COVID-19 and soon the climate crisis, what we are actually seeing is a controlled demolition of our society as we know it. The world is changing, and there are extremely powerful people who are pushing for a Build Back Better agenda. You can see it everywhere you look if you open your eyes, from small businesses being forced to close on a mass scale, to farmers being bankrupted out or forced to sell their farms because they cannot afford to farm with the new reductions in allowed items like nitrogen. You can see many countries walking in lockstep, and this is not a coincidence at all. They are all following the same playbooks, and although many of these leaders are power-hungry sociopaths, some may even think it is the right thing to do. Because when you listen to people talk such as Yuval Harari, who was mentioned earlier in this book, they can actually be quite captivating, and they make some good points about where the future of humanity is going. However, what may seem like compassion is actually a cold-blooded worldwide power grab that will change our lives and the world to something we couldn't even imagine. The middle class will be decimated. In the future, the wealth gap between the ultra-rich and the poor will be much more compounded, even more than what we see today, and with it now being so much harder, if not impossible, to start a small business with rising costs of electricity and gas, as well as with it being harder to purchase a first home. Yuval Noah Harari is said to be one of Klaus Schwab's top advisors, and his speeches and interviews are an extremely important picture of what these people, the elites, when I say elites, I am talking about billionaires involved with the WF and others, or as Klaus Schwab is now referring to them as shareholders in the future. Yuval Harari talks about a future that needs to be shaped now to maintain control of the population. An actual quote from him is, "Humans are now hackable animals," which he is not wrong about. With gene editing combined with data about human behavior collected from billions of people, Yuval expects a new layer of surveillance that he says will take place under the skin. Klaus Schwab also speaks about this in his book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution. So what does that mean? Let me give you an example. Picture your health watch, Fitbit, that tracks your heart rate and your sleep and so on. Now picture this watch being on you all the time whether you wanted it on or not. Then picture every aspect of the data from this being sent straight into the internet/database. So what we have then is total control, where every emotion you have is monitored and sent digitally to those who will be using this information for marketing and societal control. Now we can go back to a previous chapter in this book where I mention a clip on YouTube of Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla talking about a new technology they're working with where a digital pill is ingested and can send signals which he claims will be great for compliance. Now I have to stop the reader here. This is not an opinion. This is the CEO of Pfizer saying this openly at the World Economic Forum's yearly meeting in Davos. This is a topic I have seen the mainstream media try to gaslight people about by trying to lump this in with conspiracy theory, with articles like, "Conspiracy theorists claim Bill Gates is putting microchips in the vaccines." This is how they gaslight the public and pre-slander anyone who speaks on this in the future. So again, I will include the YouTube video title so you can see it with your own eyes. As in 99% of this book, I am simply trying to make the reader aware of real events and plans they may not and likely are not aware of. The YouTube video name is "Microchips in Pills to Force Compliance is Real," says Pfizer CEO. I want this type of thing to be seen by the reader so they can understand that this is real and not just an opinion or a conspiracy theory. That is how the media gaslights people. before they are even exposed to this information to already almost be pre-programmed to dismiss it. That's why I ask you to search a few of these links I have directed you to so you can see the undeniable evidence with your own eyes. So the elites picture a future where many things will be quite different, a world where they can reduce the middle class and poor, quality of life in order to protect and save resources for themselves. There is much more to it than that, but this is the type of speech that allows them to recruit leaders like Emmanuel Macron and Justin Trudeau and so on. This is how they recruit leaders because they are launching these plans under the guise of climate change protection or social justice, but there is an obvious, much more sinister overall plan which is about using the WHO and the UN, who we now know have been corrupted through investments from billionaires like Gates, to form a controlled one. World government run by the elites where countries no longer follow their own rules, but instead are now forced to follow a set of conditions and rules for future outbreaks and conflicts. The way they are pushing this is by using slogans and statements like, "We witnessed with the COVID pandemic that if our neighbor is sick, we will become sick, so it is more important now to be following one set of instructions than ever." They are also using this when it comes to climate change, so you can clearly see how this is fooling people who may think they are in some ways doing this for the right reasons. But a deeper look shows clearly this is not being done for the general good of humanity. It is being done to ensure control of the future of the planet with surveillance and control we couldn't even imagine. An example of that control we can expect to see is in February 2022 in Canada when the trucker movement for freedom against mandated vaccines happened. What we saw was a massive amount of donations given from across the world, but mostly from Canadians, and what we saw was Justin Trudeau activate the Emergencies Act to take away people's rights, and even freeze their bank accounts. This will be used in the future under this agenda as a way to silence people. Before you even question anything or speak out, you will know that you are risking having your bank account turned off, which will cause intimidation similar to what we see in China with the social credit scores and people being disappeared. They tried to push the digital passport, but were unsuccessful overall as it seemed this was rushed, but it doesn't take a genius to understand how the digital passport can and will be used in the future. At a recent WF event, Alibaba Group President J. Michael Evans, who previously spent 20 years working for U.S. investment bank Goldman Sachs, said, "We're developing through technology the ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. What does that mean?" Evans asks the audience, that's where they're traveling. How are they traveling? What are they eating? What are they consuming on the platform? So individual carbon footprint tracker. Stay tuned, we don't have it operational yet, but this is something that we're working on. The title of this video is WF Speaker. We're working on tracking you, and can be found easily on YouTube with that title search command. With many references to this type of tracking in Yuval Harari's speeches and books, as well as Klaus Schwab's books, The Great Reset and the Fourth Industrial Revolution, we can clearly see this is not just a hypothetical future. This is one that is being planned and carried out.